part of the demonstration, we'll move the assembly from SolidEdge into FEMAP, create the materials and properties, the assembly constraints, and mesh the part. So again, within SolidEdge, just simply hit the FEMAP button under the Applications menu, and your assembly appears in FEMAP. Now, I also recommend that you set your highlighting to transparent and turn off the show labels. At this point, you should walk through the geometry, show the control arm, the cap nut, and the drive key. I want to point out something important, that the order of the parts in this assembly are different than they are in SolidEdge. Let's go create the materials and properties. So open up your model window, create two materials, or actually a better way to do this is to click on properties, click right at properties, create a new one, set your element and property type to solid, create a new material, hit your load button, and we're going to make the control arm out of the 7075 heat treated aluminum. Click OK to create the material. Then if you'd like, you could go under your palette, set your color of the aluminum to a darker green or medium green, and call this property control arm. Create a second material, and now we're going to use a stainless steel. Use the stainless 17-4. Hit OK. Change your color because we're going to create the property for the drive or the cap nut. So we'll call this the cap nut. And then the third one, we'll just reuse the stainless steel, and this is going to be the drive key. And we'll set the color to dark gray. Get out of creating that. Let's assign the properties. So to the control arm, we'll set out the attribute as control arm. The cap nut will be the cap nut property. And the drive key will be the drive key property. Now, if you want, in the SolidEdge assembly model, you can pre-assign the material properties, but be very careful because the material data in SolidEdge, even though you may have it defined as in megapascals, will always come over because it's metric in pascals. So you'll see that the modulus elasticity is very high. The next thing I like to do is actually look at this aluminum material in the Entity Editor window. So you can double click the Entity Editor window, hit Show those material properties. And if you click on the property in the model info tree, you'll see that that particular property is assigned to that part. So point out that you're confirming or verifying ahead of time what properties and what materials are going to be used in this model. I also recommend that you go in under the View toolbar and the View Style pull down to set your color width to property colors. Okay, next thing you're going to do is create the automatic connection. So just hit OK. We'll use the glued property. And you can see that those connections are created. If you want, you can walk through the connections in the tree. So for example, if you want to look at the connection between the control arm and the pin and the drive key, you can see that there. Use Control G to clear that preview. The other thing I recommend now is to go in and turn off your View Connectors toggle or your connector in region using the Entity Display toolbar. Next, let's go in and mesh the model. So right-click on Geometry, say Tet Mesh. In this case, I'd recommend update the mesh size, make it about 2.5. You're working in millimeters here. OK. Hit OK to mesh the solid. And there's your model. Now, I'd also recommend toggling off the display of the surfaces. On your toolbar, there is a check element distortion icon so that you can run an element check if people ask about that. So we're ready with, we've assigned the material properties, we assigned and created the connections and created the mesh.